No, she messaged me that she was going to be late because she had business. She had to consult with a client, and this was not true.
No, it was a lie. I eventually told you that.
Your next favorite podcast pick starts now. Here's the Professor and Heather Ann.
Welcome to the Professor and Heather Ann. I'm Heather Ann.
And I'm the Professor.
Although we don't have all the answers, we hope we can encourage and excite you. We're here sharing our lives to inspire you to make the most of the second half of your life. So I guess we're just going to dive right in.
Dive right in.
It's our first episode.
That's very exciting. We're going to start by introducing ourselves.
I'm Heather Simon, and a little bit about myself is I grew up in Bakersfield, California, graduated from high school, was basically a straight A student, played all the sports. When I graduated from high school, I moved to Los Angeles to go to school and work. I wound up getting a job in my first adult job in Beverly Hills, and working for a famous actor's brother, which was a lot of fun. Being 19 years old and living that Hollywood Beverly Hills lifestyle was very nice. Not going to lie about that. Then moved back to Bakersfield, met my husband, and we moved here to Oklahoma, where he is originally from. It was a big culture shock for me, but by this time I had landed in the mortgage business and became a mortgage lender. I've been a mortgage lender for just about 30 years. It's something I really enjoy, being able to help people make their dreams come true through home ownership is something I've really enjoyed through my career. Besides being a mortgage lender, I'm a national speaker. I became a national speaker a few years ago. I speak at women's conferences. I speak at universities. I speak at nonprofit conferences. At the university, I speak at conferences for nursing students, medical students, psychology students. I am also the mother of 2 grown boys. I'm very proud. Sometimes even when I talk about them, I get a little tears come to my eyes. I grew up in trauma. I had a childhood full of trauma. There was abuse. My senior year of high school, we became front page news, and it was not for anything good. So when I look at my boys now, I am just amazed on how well they turned out. Growing up, they did learn about my trauma. It's not something I kept from them. I was very open and honest with them about it, mainly because I wanted them to understand me a little bit and to understand where they came from, to make sure that we changed our family's story. And they are out living their lives, doing a great job. My oldest one joined the Army right out of high school, and he became, his job in the Army was EOD, which is handling explosives, so he became a bomb specialist. And there's a little story behind that. When he was about 4 and 5, he became obsessed with the show MacGyver from the 80s. And he would always pick up things and put things in his pockets. And when I'd ask him, why do you have these things? And he'd be like, because in case I need to build something to escape or build a bomb. And here he grew up to be my real life MacGyver. My youngest son is, he's living in Denver right now, living his best life, trying lots of different things, travels a lot. He is very proud of him. There is not anything that he cannot do. He would come to me when he was younger and say, I'm going to do this. And he would do it, and that's what he's doing now. One of the things that him and I do is baseball. So our goal is to go to all of the baseball stadiums in the country. We have been to about 13 now. One of our greatest ball games was last year. We were able to go and see our favorite team, the Yankees, at Yankee Stadium at the World Series. And so we're always constantly trying to figure out where we can see the Yankees, what ballpark we can go to next. But one of the things I did pass down to my boys is the love of the Yankees, even though I grew up in California. I was a huge Yankee fan since I was 5 years old, and my boys are huge Yankee fans as well. And the reason why the World Series, when we got there, I literally did start crying. One of the things was I was at the Dodgers-Yankees World Series in Dodger Stadium in the late 70s. And then to be there to experience the Dodgers and Yankees in the World Series in Yankee Stadium with my younger son was just a dream come true. And but that's a little bit about me. Let's hear about the professor.
I'm Joe Manson. I was born in 1960, grew up in San Diego. I went to UC Berkeley as an undergraduate, grew my hair long, went to a lot of Grateful Dead concerts. I went to grad school at the University of Michigan, earned a PhD, returned to Southern California, and from 1994 to 2022, I was a professor of biological anthropology at UCLA. I did research on primate behavior with my first wife, so I've spent totals up to about 6 years in Costa Rica in tropical forest, following monkeys around, recording everything that they did. Around 2007, I switched to studying human behavior, basically psychological research, even though I was still in an anthropology department. I've studied personality differences, mostly with survey questionnaires, but also some research that used various methods that observe people's naturally occurring behavior. And I still do this research. So that's the work part of my life. My major hobby is music. I play recorder, something I just took up in my mid-50s. And so, of course, taking up an instrument as an adult, you never get to be as good as if you take it up as a child, but I've become able to enjoy it anyway, and that's the important thing. So as a professor, I gradually became disenchanted with academia, both its prevailing philosophies, worldviews, and the way its institutions work or fail to work or work in perverse ways. I also gradually rediscovered faith and the importance of ancient heritage, both of which I had abandoned as a teenager. I got divorced in 2021, so one of the many divorces prompted by the stresses of the pandemic, although my wife and I had been drifting apart for a long time before then. We have one adult daughter. In the summer of 2022, so I was only 62 years old, I retired, wrote a blog post about why I was leaving a tenured faculty position, so all of my complaints about academia. I left Los Angeles. I'd become just as disenchanted with LA as I had with academia, piled my belongings into my Honda, and set off for Oklahoma, a place that I'd never been before except to drive through, and where I knew exactly 3 people, 2 professors and 1 grad student at Oklahoma State. So it was kind of a reverse Grapes of Wrath journey. It was a major culture shock. So things like seeing a sign at the door of a coffee shop that says, "Please, no open carry." In California, no one has a gun. So even to myself, and certainly to almost everyone who knew me at the time, this seemed like a very odd thing to do, to move from LA to Oklahoma. But it was the right thing to do because within a month of arriving, I met Heather, and 8 months later, we were engaged to be married. So
the main question we get a lot is, how did we meet? and we met on a dating app called JDate. It's a Jewish dating app. It was my first time. I had been broken up, separated from my ex for 2 years, and this was my first dive into the dating world. I actually didn't want to necessarily do it. I had a friend that was kind of pushing me to it, just saying, just go ahead and do it, go ahead and do it. And yeah, it was.
I had been enrolled in this app in Los Angeles, and then when I moved to Oklahoma and changed on the app, changed my address, I saw that the number of women within, I think it was 50 miles, that was the setting I used. Within 50 miles of me, the number of women who met my criteria was less than 10. There just aren't very many Jews in Oklahoma. And most of those, there was something about their criteria that I didn't meet. So I was about to unsubscribe. This JDate seemed like a complete waste of time and money. And it was just at that time that Heather joined, and I saw her profile.
And my profile was, because I still wasn't sure I wanted to do this, I just grabbed whatever files I had, pictures I had on my phone.
So in none of her pictures was she smiling.
Which I smile a lot more now. I do smile in my pictures now, so that says something. But I also, it was just a short little blurb about myself, and I don't even quite remember exactly what it was.
It had a very smart-ass vibe.
Which was what my point was, is like, I just kind of had the attitude, reach out, don't reach out, I don't really care, so. But you did reach out.
I thought, this is a very interesting woman, I can tell.
So then you did reach out.
And we exchanged messages for, it was only about a week. Mm-hmm. And then had our first date, which was afternoon coffee, but then it turned into dinner. And
then somehow we wound up shopping at Trader Joe's.
At Trader Joe's. I was living in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and the nearest Trader Joe's is in Tulsa, where Heather lived, and we had the date. And so I said, well, I as long as I'm here in town, I need to pick up some things I can't get in Stillwater.
So our first date actually wound up being like 6 hours.
Yes. And I felt like I could tell Heather things about myself that I hadn't told anyone. That this was someone who understood me, and that I could disclose, I could open myself in a way that I hadn't, and so this was one of the cues that this is someone I was fascinated with.
I was nervous and intrigued. Neither one of us had gone on a date for 30 plus years, so that was nerve-wracking in itself, but within a half hour I felt very comfortable with him, and we were there was no breaks in our conversation. It just really flowed, and we went from one topic to another topic, and it wasn't just sharing about what we're doing now. It was really, we had already known we had the connection of both being born and raised in California, so we were able to talk about California and the beaches and all of that. But I feel like it really just, obviously it flowed together that it lasted for 6 hours. One
of my impressions is that this is a very strong person, someone who's faced a lot of challenges, in fact, is battered but not broken. And this was one of the most impressive things to me. We'll talk about this more.
I was very impressed that you were, I'm going to say it, Mr. Smarty Pants. I loved our conversations and just your knowledge, and we had things in common, the music and things that we read, and so that was very appealing to me as well.
I was nervous before the date, having not been on a date in 30 years, and there were things I worried about that I would, without meaning to launch into lectures, to sort of an occupational hazard of being a professor. There's lots of lectures like on the tips of our tongue, and so I was monitoring myself to make sure I was doing a lot of asking questions, listening, not just talking.
And you did very well. You asked a lot of questions, and I really appreciated that. And the same thing, I hadn't been on a date in 30 years, so, it's all the typical girl stuff. Am I wearing the right outfit? Truth be told, I probably changed my outfit like eight times before I was out the door. So, but...
No, she messaged me that she was going to be late because she had business. Had to consult with a client. And this was not true.
No, it was a lie. I eventually told you the truth. It was a lie. I couldn't decide what I wanted to wear, and I probably did my hair 2 or 3 times, and I had short hair at the time, so that says a lot. I was very nervous, calling my girlfriends, what am I doing? What in the world? But we'll get more into that as the episodes, as we get into more episodes. One of the reasons we decided to do this podcast is, after doing some research and stuff, we found that there's not a lot of podcasts necessarily geared towards midlife, people that are in their older generations, the Gen Xers and the baby boomers. But truly what kicked everything off was I had signed us up to be in a contest, America's Favorite Couple. I did this without telling him first. As soon as we got the notification that we had been accepted into the contest, I then had to confess and let him know that we were doing this. And one of the things you had to do was pick like a name for yourselves. And you have always been known to my family and friends, even on social media, as the professor. And
you want to explain why that is?
So when I was younger and dating, I dated a lot, and it just became a thing for me. The guys that I dated, I never really addressed them by their names when I talked to my friends. It was always like occupation or something, the pilot, the heart surgeon, the farmer, because I did date a farmer when I was younger. Just things like that. And I never knew how long I would be dating them, but you always want to talk to your girlfriends about the guys you're going out with. So when we started, I just kind of fell back. When we started dating, I kind of fell back into that. And I didn't know, was this going to be a long-term thing? Or your title was very easy because you are the professor. So I knew I wanted that to be part of our name for the contest. But it just wound up being the professor and Heather. I couldn't change it because then I wanted to change it to, obviously, the professor and Heather, and because people our age are going to understand the reference to that.
Understand the cultural reference, yes.
And but one of the things that happened, we were in the top 5. We moved up pretty quickly. We had a lot of family and friends voting for us. But one of the things on social media that I had was I had a lot of women my age, women that have recently just been divorced or widowed, who maybe have been divorced for years but just had never wanted to get into the dating scene, sent private messages to me asking what it's like being married for a second time, how we met, how did I know I wanted to get married again. And so, and it just kind of started and perpetuated from that, of people asking us questions and different things. And then,
So this is one of the kinds of topics we'll be addressing in the podcast. Is forming new relationships in middle age, but also more broadly, remaking one's life in middle age or older. So changing careers, changing the location where you live. And of course, as we get older, we get more set in our ways, and it becomes more and more of a psychological and often practical challenge of how you do this, how you make these big changes. And so some of our topics will be about things like relocating. We are in the process of relocating at this time. Things like how blending families,
retirement, finances, building your dream home, right-sizing your life and your home.
healthy aging.
Healthy aging, what it's like to... the professor really wasn't into working out. He walked a lot. He's very healthy, but since we've been together, he now lifts weights and does yoga. I even have him doing some sound baths. I have him on all kinds of vitamins.
Vitamins, supplements.
So it's about being healthy. We're very fortunate that neither one of us are on any medication, so we'll be talking about even that. We also have, one of the things we'll be talking about is childhood traumas. So you grew up in a fairly traditional home.
Traditional meaning there wasn't much trauma.
There wasn't much trauma. I grew up in a home full of all kinds of trauma, and we'll be talking about that and even how navigating that and bringing that into a new relationship. But we're really here also to talk about things that we just don't talk about. Our generation was, you don't talk about a lot of stuff. If you have problems, you don't talk about it. You don't tell your friends and family. Case in point, women and hormones and menopause. That has been a taboo subject for many years. We'll actually be talking about that, not just women's hormones, but men's hormones. So just everything that just kind of affects our lives as we're aging, and we hit that 40 plus mark.
And so do you want to tell them about some of the guests or the kinds of people we are going to have as guests?
So we're going to have experts in all the different fields that we're talking about. So we'll have people that'll come on and talk about right sizing. We'll have another professor. We'll be coming on and talking about hope, and anybody that's gone through trauma knows about ACEs and PACEs, and again, we'll get into more of that. But ACEs is the adverse things that happen in your life. It's like this questionnaire of 1 to 10. Mine is a 10, by the way. And then PACEs is the positive things that happen in your life. And they've done extensive research on the PACEs. And she will be a special guest of ours and probably be on a couple of times just to be able to go into those segments of childhood trauma and hope and the positive things that you can do in your life, even as an adult, to change your outcome on life, I guess.
And there'll be people who can talk about the supplements and health enhancing things we've done. People who are in the business of selling and distributing these things.
Yes.
Like that.
And even talk more about our health and how we've gotten our numbers down and your numbers that older men have to worry about. We'll be talking more about that as well. So we have a lot that we really want to share with you. We really did some research and have just found more people our generation are coming out and talking about more of the things that we're dealing with in older life. But there really isn't like a couple that's coming out and just sharing our lives and all the crazy things that we've gone through just since we've been together for 3 years, and now we've been married for, a little over a year now.
Yes.
Almost a year and a half.
Almost a year and a half. We'll talk about social media and technology for the middle-aged and older.
I'm on social media. He does not like it that much.
Yes, I would delete my Facebook account if it weren't for that Heather uses it a lot and sends me videos on it and so forth.
That's my community. That's my love language. I send you all these videos. I think that's it for our first.
Well, that's it. We're coming to the end of our first episode, but we want to say a little something about what our second episode will be.
Oh yes, our second episode. We'll be diving more into how first dating, our feelings and things that went along with that. Also, how you processed. On our first date, I kind of threw a little like, oh, by the way.
She said, right before the start of my senior year of high school, my family became front page news. And not for anything good.
And that was it.
That was it.
We didn't talk about it that night. Just threw a little nugget out there.
But starting on the second date, she told me more about this sort of, you might say, like the climax of a traumatic upbringing. And so what we're going to talk about in our second episode, in part, is digesting these kinds of experiences and then
processing
them, hearing about them in another person, and so how the effects of this on life today for both of us.
Yes.
Okay.
So we hope you enjoyed our first episode, in which we've talked about who we are as a couple, how we met, our relationship. We talked about why we started this podcast, the meaning behind our podcast name, future topics, guests we'd like to have, and our motivation for each episode. We have so many exciting discussions coming up. We can't wait to have you along for our new episodes. So join us here each week, my friend, where you're sure to get a smile. From lessons learned to mishaps, the adventures go on for miles. Here on The Professor and Heather Ann.
Thank you for listening to The Professor and Heather Ann.